So I lost my dang head mount, so today we're going to be doing a combination of setting this up somewhere and me just picking up and talking to you all. Hopefully you guys liked the last video. I'd like to keep doing the head mount, but I was in a rush today because I have another surprise for you guys that should make all of this a whole lot easier. I'm having some complications with it. So I do not have the bushings for this that go in the hole around it, but I do have the new parts for this. We're just not going to really be able to do much with it. But last time this was kind of filled with junk and stuff, but I don't know if there's a good way I could show you guys. But it is all cleaned out, all that sap and stuff. I sprayed and filled it with carb cleaner, and swished it around and cleaned it out and stuff until it was only clear, and I sprayed water in it and cleaned it out and then let it sit upside down so it would drain out of it. So that's pretty much 100% clean, way better than I thought I could get it. But since we can't hook this back up, we'll at least put the fuel lines back where I left one, just so I could see where it was routed and remember, because you know, you go a few days and you have multiple projects and stuff and you kind of forget. So we're going to run the new lines today. 2 lines need to run back here, one for the reserve, one for the regular tank. We'll run those back there so they're ready to go when my bushings come, which I think they're coming tomorrow. And then that will allow us to hook our new fuel lines to this so we can run, because I'm pretty sure I know which way each of these goes. But that doesn't really matter. I can adjust that once blah blah blah. So I get the hoses hooked up to here, then I can put the tray back in here, get the battery in here, get the battery hooked up, and then we can try to crank this over, because I did find the governor spring I had lost. Thank the Lord, Dakota found that for me. I also cleaned the carburetor out, so we have the carburetor right here, because I don't really want to buy a new one. I like the Kohler carburetors, they seem to work pretty well. So let's get going. I really wish I had the head mount, because I really thought that was cool. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys actually enjoyed the head mount. But like I said, for today we won't have it. Let's get all this stuff back together. Today we are back working on the 318. Today we're actually shooting on one of my normal cameras, my A6400. I'm over the GoPro because I think it'd be nice to have the GoPro to show you guys maybe close-ups, but this would use up a lot less space, and I don't know, just might make things easier editing-wise and everything. So my truck's loud too. Alright, so today we still don't have the bushings for the gas tank. So at the moment, we are just trying to get spark to this engine, and once we have spark, we'll use this old gas can to supply some gas to it and get it running. So today's goal, for the most part, is just to get this running. Now the battery's hooked up, it will turn over, as you can see. It just has no spark at all. So, and the spark plugs aren't really that bad, to be honest, so we're going to try cleaning them up, which I guess I did clean them up a little bit. And we're going to see if we can get this to spark and hopefully get it to run and everything. I think this for the PTO. Just the way they wired everything is weird. Like, it's just strange. Like, none of the neutral switches really seem to work anymore. I don't know, bro. We gotta figure it out. So I think the first step might be, shoot, we need to start getting these boxes and stuff off of here. So, well, the shields, I guess. The shields is the better term for it. And I bet they're 10 millimeters. They are 10 millimeters. This is weird because I normally have the GoPro and I'm like holding it and everything. But I'm trying to take y'all's suggestions and Swaz, aka Tanner, suggested that I use higher shots, so we actually have the camera. Okay. So from the engine sitting outside so long, these bolts are just breaking. So that bolt is literally broken. Both of them. I don't know if I'm pressing my luck or not. We need to loosen that and get that out of the way quick. Because we need to get the shield out the way so we can clean the flywheel and everything off. Okay, some of these bolts will come out. Just not the shield ones, apparently. I just need this to move over. Because if we can get all the shielding off, gosh, I hate the bolt snap. I hate it so much. It's the worst. I don't like drilling them out. I don't like messing with any of that stuff. I just want the bolts to work the way they're supposed to work, you know? I didn't bring my microphone today. I should have brought it, because then you guys would be able to hear me a whole lot better. Let's disconnect that for the moment. I just got a spark, and I don't like sparks. Fires and other hazardous things. I'm just trying to get stuff out of the way. I knew I was going to have issues with this dang engine, only because it's not the engine that's supposed to be in here. And it seems like they did a majority of the stuff right, but then there's a great deal of stuff that seems wrong as well. But we gonna get it. No pain, no gain. I want one of them. So my grandfather has a small kit, this small socket kit, and it has, it's a little Craftsman. It's a 1/2 inch or quarter-inch kit, and on the back of this you can put the ratchet, and you can ratchet the screwdriver. I want something like that. I've wanted it for a long time. See, for like stuff like that, where I can't freaking break it loose myself. See if we can get these out. Ooh, maybe? Okay, so it's just that side, maybe? Yep. These ones are turning. Alright, so it's just those ones. I thought maybe I just got a huge sign that this was left out, but it seems to be okay. I could technically use the impact probably and speed up this process. Gosh, it would be so nice if I would have just brought the microphones, the wireless system. But the issue with there's no issue with the microphones, but the issue with the impact is if these bolts, sometimes you can ease some of these bolts out without them snapping off, but if I just instantly put the impact on some of these bolts, they might just freaking snap instantly. Guards out the way so I can see why it has no spark. I just don't fully know how. So I think we're going to go ahead and take this shroud off of here, just to see if maybe it'll give us easier access to the bottom of this shroud. It's just the way it's packed in here, which it may have been with the original Onan as well, but I'm just I need to be up there. Issue is these dang the cooling fins for the frickin' the hydraulics are kind of sharp. I don't want to cut myself on them. Okay, so the only dilemma I'm having is there are bolts that go into the bottom of this flywheel housing. Gosh, but I'm gonna have to freaking take this back off to be able to get to them. Which I guess is going to have to be what we're going to have to do, unfortunately. Oh, man. Alright, so I don't know how the Onan fits in here and all, but this has been one of the most tedious things in the past few weeks for me. I don't think any engine I've worked on has been as tedious as this. So I'm trying to get this shroud off, like I said, so I can check the coil, clean it up, clean the flywheel up. And there's obviously one, two, you know, these bolts here, but then there's bolts underneath this shroud. Now I can't get to those bolts underneath this shroud because this fan, like the cooling fins are in the way and they're cutting up my hand and everything. So I loosened this up, took a long time. But now I have 4 bolts on the underneath of this engine. I got one out, no, I got 2 out. I'm trying to work on the second one that'll allow this shroud to come out. But the way that this is packed in here, like, I'm very glad that it fits because I like this engine and all, but this is just a pain in the butt. So if you, I don't even know if I can show you guys where that's latched around. And there's no easy way, that hole doesn't line up with it. Freaking none of these holes line up properly with it. So I'm struggling at the moment. So I'm going to keep working on this. There's no way I can show you guys this while I work on it, but it's just a pain in the butt. I spent probably the last hour or two just working on this, and wow, it is windy as hell. So I've been fiddling with this for quite a while now, and I didn't want to just have you guys like looking blindly at a bunch of stupidity. So basically I took all these out of here so I could try to get more room to move the shroud off, but it wouldn't move very far, and I kind of just frustrated myself in the process. And then I lost my 10mm socket, which seems to be the only one that's actually needed for this dang tractor. So I took it apart, cleaned the flywheel off and everything. It's not turned properly. And then tried to crank it. Well, because these panels and things were not here, something wasn't grounded properly, so it would not crank. So I put them back together reluctantly, and then tried cranking it. It cranked, but there was no spark. Now I looked it up because I was about to just buy a new coil if it came down to it for it. But I disconnected the ground, which is, this stops it from sparking, and it sparks. There's plenty of spark here. I'll show you guys real quick. Yeah, so you guys can see that. So there is plenty of spark, luckily, on both cylinders, but they're both off the same coil, so the only thing that could stop it is... they're not getting consistent ground, and I'm not touching them to get shocked. So, now, we are safe to put this ground back on here. I gotta try to fit it in here, because I don't have very much room, and I'm not taking all this apart again. So we will fit this back on here. So far the engine is great. I like Kohler engines and all, but the only thing that is kind of frustrating, oh, you guys can see right there where I cleaned it off and everything. The only thing that's frustrating is the way it's crammed in here. I don't know if the original Onan is like this, but there's literally no room for anything. Like, maybe if this was shifted up slightly, but I guess I can't complain too much because, like, it is all hooked up properly and everything. So as long as I don't have to go back in there for anything, we should be good. But we do have spark. I'm gonna get this housing put back together for the most part since we have spark. And then we can actually, I need to get the ground wire back on. I need to figure out, follow the ground wire and see why it's not grounded. So my guess is the safety switch back here that goes onto the seat. So worst case, I'll just connect the seat back. I'll set the seat on top of here just so I can get spark and everything. But we have spark, the coil is good and everything. I've never actually had a coil be bad on an engine, but this one's old, so I was considering it. So let's work on that, and then I'll see you guys soon. So as you guys can see, we got everything put back together. It was a pain in the butt, but it was easier putting it back together than taking it apart. So for the most part, it's back together. There are a few nuts and bolts and things missing. So it has spark. It may have had spark all along, but the issue is I didn't realize one of the PTO switches, the one that I thought maybe had been for a rear PTO, was actually the switch that grounds out the coil. So that's the switch you use to shut it off. I didn't realize that. I thought safety switches were keeping it from sparking. I thought a million different things were, but it was literally that switch. So I may not have even had to take it apart the way I did today. It may have been perfectly fine. So we're gonna flip it on. I'm gonna get some gas into it using this from the junkyard or the junk tractor that I have, and we're going to see if we can get it running. The oil's a little high, but I'll change the oil out once it's running. So let's go. All right, so I'm currently struggling with trying to prime the fuel system and get fuel in the line. So I did actually end up hooking up the junk tractor's gas can because the gas drain is at the bottom. I figured it put a little bit more pressure behind it. I want to try, I don't know, I want to try taking the fuel pump off just to make sure it's working, because it could be not working. But then again, I had this issue on the other John Deere. So I don't know, we're going to try a few things, see if we can find a solution for it. All right, it is another beautiful day out. Today, we have quite a few things, but they're very simple. I got one of these in the other day. I forgot my camera that day, but I got one of these in. This is the main one for, if you look here, this is for right here, which I guess I can shut it off, but there ain't no gas flowing through it anyway. We need to get that one. Well, that one's finished. We need to get the other one for the reservoir in, which I have the new little thingy, and I cleaned off the little, I don't even know how to describe it, but I have a new grommet and all that stuff for it. And then we need to get these lines primed, which I don't really know how to do that. I looked into maybe getting a maybe a bulb or something I could put right here that I could squeeze to maybe prime up the fuel system and all, but I haven't went through with it yet. It might even be better if I put it down here, but I also would like to add a fuel filter to this so we can see when fuel's actually flowing. So I may cut it right there and add a fuel filter in here, and we'll go from there. So fortunately, I'm kind of a donut, and I not only forgot the top plate for my tripod, but I also can't seem to find the head mount for this camera. That's why I've not been doing it that way. So I'm relying on holding it. So this is the other piece that goes in here. We got to get the grommet in there. And then we need to attach a little piece of fuel line to the end of this that attaches to a little screen that picks up inside of the tank, because that's for the reserve. So let's get that done. I'm hoping that once we have like kind of an airtight situation here, and maybe once we have the airtight situation on here and I fill it up with a little bit more fuel, we might be like good to go and everything, but we'll have to see. So, you guys, look, we got the grommets in. Thanks to Jeremy, I was able to get this one in. This one has the hose on it for the reservoir. We got them zip tied back to where I believe they were. I don't see why there'd be any issue there, and that at least it stays away from the PTO shaft. And I also managed to add this gas filter here. Now this gas filter is freaking huge, so I hope that that doesn't have any implications or anything. I guess I just should have made this line longer. This line that goes to the fuel pump, it probably should have been longer. But I wanted to film as I put the seat back on and everything, and I lost the GoPro. Every day I've been here, I've misplaced something. So hopefully that's the last of it. The other day was a 10mm socket. Then the day before that, well, it started raining, but the day before that I forgot the camera, so I didn't do much. I think I put this side in and then called it a day, because I was like, I don't want to work on it without recording. So I'm gonna set this up, and then we're gonna try to get that thing back on the back of here and go from there. I didn't put the cap back on the back. That might be a factor in it. I don't know. to adjust the idle. You don't, by any chance, have a tachometer, do you?
What's that?
It like reads the RPMs of the engine. Okay. I was thinking about buying one because I think I saw one on Amazon for only 20 bucks.
You can get it from, yeah, a lot of them.
Okay. Yeah, and they go through there.
How does it cool?
So this big old fin over here, it helps. That's why all these shrouds are like the way they are. It helps force the air up and through. And then it also sucks air from the bottom. That's what that belly pan, the black one's for. Because that screens all the stuff it sucks up from underneath. Yeah. But I'm gonna get. Thank you. It wouldn't be possible without your help. I'm going to put these on quick just to help with the cooling. Because they said they can overheat without these on. But once I get these on, I'm going to drive it around. Alright, so now that it'll run pretty decently, for some reason it will not run under the normal gas setting, which, I mean, if I have to run under the reservoir, that's not a big deal. The fuel pump is working. Maybe there's just not enough gas back there for it to work that way. So I'm going to get these shields back on to help with the heat and everything. And then we're going to drive it around a little bit. As you saw, it'll move around and everything. And the fluid, I'll bring you guys with me. The fluid does seem to be in a decent, okay, see, so it filled back up. So we do need to change the transmission fluid, and we do need to add a hose that goes from here up into there. But as long as this has, like, it's reading fluid at the moment, I think we'll be okay. So let's go test it out. So it runs around and drives pretty darn great, but I appear to have a leak somewhere in here. Gas-wise, we're doing good. It runs great. It gets warm, but there's some type of leak in here. And before I put $30 a gallon worth of transmission fluid, I would like to have all the leaks taken care of. So I'm gonna take this battery tray out and see if we can get easier access, because it's dripping down onto one of the transmission lines. I thought it was one of the transmission lines leaking, but I can see it dripping from up in here. So it seems like maybe it was leaking from this side of the hose, but as soon as I got the battery box, I don't know if the battery box, because there is a little bit of tension on the battery box when I put it down. I don't know if maybe it was pressing this weirdly, so it was leaking out from here or what, but it seems fine now. I tightened the hoses up a little. You can see that hose clamp looks a little wet compared to those ones. So I tightened all these hose clamps up a little bit just to see, and it looks like it's wet there on top of that cooling fin, and it looks to be wet on top of this one, but I can't find any leaks. I've turned it on, I've ran it, I've put the steering wheel back and forth. I've even tried like putting it forward and backwards to see if I could see anything or if it would tell me anything. I have the battery hooked up like this so I can have the battery box out of it, but that seems fine. And then I don't really see any leaks back here either. If you guys can look, it looks like maybe it was leaking in that direction over there, but it doesn't seem to be fresh. So that could have also been gas that I spilled, just like right here. You can see it looks wet, but there it's definitely squirting out, but that's just because that needs that clamp up there that goes on the other side of this, which we'll get another hose and stuff to replace that. But I think I should be safe to put the top back on here. I can't find any leaks, to be entirely honest. Well, I guess there is a minor, it looks like a minor leak back here. Around that seal right there, there appears to be a minor leak, but I don't know if I'm even going to bother with, like, that's very minuscule. I can just keep an eye on the fluid, and if it gets bad enough, we'll fix it, but I don't really want to have to take this apart, to be honest. So I think we'll just leave it the way it is for now. And it doesn't seem to be leaking bad or anything. Yeah, just, I don't see any leaks or anything in there. Like, anything that leads me to be concerned. I could have spilled some dang gas, which I know I did spill gas. So I think we'll just call it a day. I'm gonna put the battery box and stuff back in there. I don't think the PTO's working, but the way that this is hooked up, I can't really access it to push that in entirely without putting myself, well, I guess if I pull it this way. I'm trying to test to see if the PTO will work. Obviously it's not on, but it should, the magnets should still activate. So we're going to see if we can get that to work. I kind of finagled this back together and I think it's working at the moment. And I can't seem to get the lights to work either, which I hooked up the wires for them. For some reason the lights aren't working. But I mean, if the biggest issues on this tractor that the lights don't work, then I feel like I'm doing something somewhat right and I can't complain too much. So I'm going to put the battery box back in, see if I can get it in without having it pressed down on anything, so maybe I don't have that issue again, and go from there. Well, it's about time for me to head home. So as a final wrap up for today, I'll probably get the side panels and everything back on here. I'm really sorry about not having the tripod and not filming as much as I would have liked to. But we will improve on the future and there's still plenty to do on it. So as a final wrap up, it does start up and runs very well. Except only the reservoir line will pull from the tank. Now I could have messed up something back there, but who cares? The reservoir one works, it pulls gas, it runs, I don't care. Even if I have to leave it on the reservoir. It won't be perfect for the moment, but I don't feel like going back through all that. I ran it for a little with it shut off just to get some gas out of there. The pump does not appear to be leaking. There's like little spots of like wetness where maybe the bowl seal may be leaking a little bit or something, but over and above all, it's not leaking, like nothing's dripping. So I'm not really going to worry about that for the moment. Now with this, since I tightened up that hose and everything, there was fluid on the bottom of the battery box, there is no longer fluid there. And then if you look down here, that furthest line, there was fluid dripping on that just regularly. And there's no fluid on that. None of these are wet right now. They do need cleaned, but none of them are wet. This doesn't appear to be leaking anymore. So I think it was just that hose, to be 100% honest. I think it was spraying out, and then when I bent it, plus when I tightened all this stuff up, I think that fixed the problem. Now we are low on fluid, as you can see from the little glass. So I do need to do the fluid change and stuff, because I'm not going to add more fluid to this fluid. I'd rather just drain it. Now if you look down here, there's this little bolt right here. Take that out and drain it, and then we'll change the filter on the front. So we'll get that taken care of very soon. And then we need to figure out the PTO situation, because that PTO is not working at the moment. And right now all the tractor would do is drive around. We need that PTO, we need a PTO that works. So I believe that PTO is bad. We also need a new switch for this. This switch seems to be fine, but if I could maybe get 2 for cheap, that'll match up. We'll do that. Because I think I put the switch back together fine, and it seems to be working, and I'll have to test it and maybe get a little bit more scientific. And this is the connector for it. I think that the connector, I think that the PTO is actually bad, but I'm not 100% sure. I assume that's why, because you wouldn't take the PTO off if it wasn't working, you know. So we'll need to replace the PTO, which probably we'll probably get a used one, because I'm not spending $400 on a new one. So we'll probably replace that. That'll be like hopefully under 100. If anyone has anyone, just let me know. The engine doesn't appear to be leaking at all, which is a wonderful thing. And truth be told, like, it runs really well, to be honest, for how old it is and everything. So I'm very happy with that. It does shake a little bit, but I mean, I think all these old Kohlers have some type of shake to them. So the engine runs, the transmission works, it just needs the fluid changed. The power steering and everything works great. We need to figure out the PTO situation. And then this pulley on here is froze up for some reason. So we need to mess with that and take that off. But there's bearings inside of here. We can press new bearings in and everything if that seems to be the issue. But these ones will turn freely. These 2 end ones. It's just this one that's seeming to have issues. So we'll work on that next time we come. But the tractor is running for the moment, and I'm very pleased with that. And then we also have one of the slow moving triangles. I was sitting in Jeremy's aunt's basement, and Jeremy gave it to me. So we got to figure out a way to mount this up back here too, you know, so if we ever have to drive on the road or whatnot. The hydraulic cylinders all seem to be working. I messed with it. Well, I guess there's only technically 2 on here, but this one doesn't seem to be leaking at all. And the one for the steering doesn't seem to be leaking, and it drives very well. I just didn't want to drive it too much without the fluid in it. So I'm gonna put all these pieces back together, get everything picked up, and then we'll probably end up calling it a day, because I have a mess right now. So just know, transmission fluid change, we need to change the oil in the freaking engine, figure out the PTO situation, probably order a new PTO at some point, and then figure out the spindle on the lawnmower, or the deck. And then we should be good to go. And I should have a truck very soon that I'll be able to tow it around in and maybe go mow some people's yards and stuff. But until next time, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.